Right, welcome everybody to the Couch Sports Talk podcast. I'm your boy Goozy Boy Juice Boy. And this is, you guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves the way that you would like to.
This is Phil, otherwise known as Gil.
All right, yeah, Youngie the winner here in the flesh.
Let's go.
Lamar Jackson lover, you know.
So before we get into the point of the show, which is the sports talk, how are you guys doing?
Feeling pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Doing good. Can't wait to actually do this podcast in person on an actual couch.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll get there eventually.
Hell yeah. You, Ethan?
Doing good. Can't wait for us to be in person. A lot going on right now, though. Want to shout out Black Lives Matter for sure.
Definitely.
Yes, Black Lives Matter.
Most definitely.
Shout out to that movement. You guys are fighting a good fight. I'm definitely with y'all signing petitions. If you guys aren't out there, donate, sign petitions, do what you can do to help.
Every dollar counts.
Facts.
Definitely.
All right, let's just jump into it. So right now we are filming on Sunday night, June 28th, and the biggest news for tonight just broke a couple hours or maybe just an hour ago. Cam Newton to the Patriots. And I'm going to start out and just say I was, as a Dolphins fan, I was really hoping that this would be the 1 year we could possibly just have the Patriots disappear. I knew that, as Bill Belichick as a coach, if they had one down year, they're going to be back. So I was just hoping this 1 year Dolphins could compete. But no, we can't. Because now Cam Newton, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league, former MVP, took his team to the Super Bowl, is now a Patriot. How do you guys feel about that?
Man, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer for the Patriots. Just the contract, having a minimum deal like that. With Cam, it's never been a question for me about his talent. It's really just his injuries and whether or not he's going to be able to come back. I know he had really bad injury stretch these past 2 years. So if things go and he's just back to his old self, I hate to tell you, man, but the Dolphins aren't going to be looking too hot this year. What about you, Ethan?
I mean, for me, I was a little bit surprised at the deal because I know news had circulated a couple weeks ago that they weren't really in talks anymore, the Patriots and Cam. But come around, I was a bit surprised today. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and, launch them in the playoffs. I think that's a tough division. I think the Dolphins are an up-and-coming team. I don't think we've seen fully what Sam Darnold could do. I don't expect much out of him, though. But, you never know. He could come out, play, and compete. And then you, of course, have the Bills, who are an up-and-coming team, and they got better this year getting Stephon Diggs.
Okay, the Bills are hot, but not the Jets.
But not the Jets, but they could win a few games. They could sneak in a few games here and there. They have some good players on the team. They just don't have a good coach, and they're not going to be able to put it together. But I think the Dolphins are an up-and-coming team, too. There's a lot of competition in the division. And then also I want to say the last time we saw Cam Newton, I mean, he couldn't even throw the ball 30 yards. So I want to keep that in mind. I hope him the best, and I want him to do good, and I do expect them to do good, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
I'm going to have to jump in and audible on this one while we talk about the AFC East. I'm going to put both of you on the spot right now and just come out and say that Josh Allen is the worst quarterback in that division now. By far. Worst starting quarterback in that division.
Stop.
Let's hear it. What do you got to say to defend him?
He's got a damn near top 5 arm, and it's just going to take him some time to develop, especially just with his team and everything, right? It's taken some time to build up around him. The team's not going to be that good. If he had some better receivers, right? If he had some better receivers, he might play a little bit better, but he's got time. Hey, we used to give quarterbacks like 4 or 5 years to figure it out. Dudes don't got to be good in 2 years. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you, man.
Here's what I got to say. I got to say. His running ability is top 3 in the NFL.
Agreed.
On the quarterback position.
For quarterbacks.
100%.
Agreed.
If you want to line up his passing skills with Sam Darnold, let's see. I think Sam Darnold has had the better offensive minded coach. He's definitely had the better receivers up until this year when, we're going to see Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs.
Fair.
First time, though.
Forgot about
And
that.
then you got to think about Le'Veon too. That makes a difference. Josh Allen hasn't had a running back. He is the rushing attack.
Right. No,
So
okay, so I agree with you on
I
that.
think
I want to say this is not a pro Sam Darnold thing because I don't think he's all that either. But with Josh Allen, I think he's 100% a fantasy quarterback. I'm telling you, I've been watching him since he was in the Mountain West at Wyoming.
I'd rather
This
have a
guy,
fantasy quarterback than have a fantasy about a quarterback being good.
man, that's how y'all sound
Sam
with
Darnold is
Sam.
not good. Sam Darnold is not good.
I'm there with you too. Like I said, this is not a pro Sam Darnold argument. I'm just saying I have no belief in Josh Allen. Zero. I know y'all remember the playoff game last year with that stupid shit he did when he tried to lateral it.
That was his first playoffs, though. I mean, come on now.
I think he'll be fine, especially with Stephon Diggs there. It's going to help him out. Sam Darnold's going to have another down year because Adam Gase with his fucking crack cocaine fucking eyes. I don't know what he's doing. That boy was popping too much pillies.
Hey, and they lost
Adam Gase is a
They lost
goofball.
their receivers this year too. They lost their
They
receivers
did.
this year.
They did.
Robbie Anderson's gone.
And they didn't really do much to replace him. So,
Right.
and then Jamal Adams is pissed. And I believe too that Jamal Adams, he's not the only one in that locker room that's upset with Adam Gase.
No way. I
So
mean,
I
as a
think-
Dolphins fan, you remember what it was like to have Adam Gase as a coach.
Oh, it's terrible.
Not exactly a leader.
No. And, you know, a bunch of players after they leave being coached by him, they say that. And Le'Veon Bell doesn't want to be there either because of his ass.
And Gase didn't want him to in the first place either. It's just a recipe for disaster.
So
No,
I
I don't
see
think
them
there's any
maybe
threat
getting-
coming from the Jets.
They're getting
None.
maybe 4 to 5 wins.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm saying
serious.
4-12, but they'll definitely one of those 4 games will definitely be a surprise division win, whether it be against the Dolphins, Patriots, or the Bills. It doesn't matter. It'll be against one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think they'll get swept.
I think that's one of the divisions where nobody ever gets swept. There's always at least one surprise win, even if 2 teams are way better than the rest.
Except for 07.
07, that's a long time ago. Let's look at recent history.
Well, remember the Patriots, they went undefeated until the Super Bowl.
And then they lost. Helmet catch.
Eli Manning. That's the boy.
I mean, coming back to Cam and the Patriots, I got to ask while we're on the subject, Cam's most famous or infamous moment, him not diving for that fumble in
I
the
don't think
Super
that'll
Bowl.
happen with the Patriots. And, you know, actually, I wanted to go further into Cam with Ethan saying that, you know, and well, both of you guys saying that, you know, his injury problems and his arm strength and whatnot. Y'all forgetting that Brady was working this offense with maybe like 50% of his arm left.
Yeah, true.
So
true.
they do a lot of screens. They do a lot of like trick plays too, where he might not even be involved in the play, and that actually gives them another dimension with him being able to run the ball. I just said that twice, but yes, he's able to do that. So the trick plays, think of the trick plays, bro. That shit would make me so mad. I know Ethan would get pissed too because the Ravens
out here throwing the ball.
Yes. Right? Always get messed up by that shit. But now you throw in Cam. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think they're going to surprise people. I think Cam's going to come back with a vengeance. He doesn't need to throw that ball 80 yards.
I hear you.
That offense.
I hear you. I think
line is also always good.
Yeah, 100%. Although the Patriots did lose their offensive line coach, correct? Their legendary offensive line coach.
Yeah, that's Joe Judge, isn't it?
Yeah, coach of the Giants now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, head coach of the Giants, and he just took a defensive guy with him too. I heard dude on Good Morning Football talking about him the other day.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask on the back of that though. So let's say they go 10-6 or 11-5 and win the division. Let's say they get knocked out in the second round of the playoffs. What do you guys see them doing beyond this year? Do you think they're going to re-sign Cam? Do you think they're going to draft a quarterback? Where do we think they're going to go next? Now, I hate talking about the Patriots, but let's get this out of the way in the first episode. What do we think they're going to do this year? I mean, if they go 11-5, and are they going to bring back Cam? I mean, potentially, I could see them bringing in Jameis too. You got to think Jameis is on a 1-year deal. We don't know what's going on with the Saints. We know Drew's done after this year, but are they going to take Taysom? Are they going to, run with Jameis?
You go 11-5. How can you not bring him back though?
Yeah, agreed. I think really this move, like I said, is a very low risk, high reward thing. And if it turns out if they struggle to get like 8-8, 9-7, and Cam's not playing as well as they would hope, I think they just stall and they wait for a quarterback in the draft. I think that's the play for them.
The other thing is we have to factor in too is if they go 11-5, and let's say Cam has a decent year, do they have the cap space to re-sign him?
They'll be fine. They always figure it out.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
They'll trade away
it's
anybody.
the Patriots.
I don't think it's going to be a hot market for quarterbacks either for anybody at that point.
Well, I get so mad when they trade away a player and then that player goes to free agency and then they come back to the Patriots.
Like, who was the guy that went to the Browns? Was it Jamie Collins?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that made me so upset. Oh, my goodness.
You know Chandler Jones about to do that.
No, let's not do that. I think Cardinals competing this year. Let's stay like that.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Let's not bring Kyler into this, bro.
We'll talk about that at the end with the hot takes.
All right.
All right, next, we got to talk about someone that is, I know, infamous in our friend group, infamous on Twitter, infamous in the sports world for being complete shit. I'm going to be blunt about it, and that's Colin Cowherd. Okay, he put out this quarterback list. There's no way that this dude's not trying to clickbait, bro. Like, there's no way. And that makes me so upset because you can't go on your sports show every day and talk like your opinion means something, and then you're out there trying to clickbait. I get very frustrated with him. And then I love when guests go on, like, especially who's talking shit about players, and they go up there and they just roast his ass for it.
Facts.
So what is your guys' opinion on him? I actually used to like him a little bit, but no, definitely not anymore. It's too much.
I mean, before we get into it, let me read off the list real quick because I do have it handy.
Share your screen.
This was a top 5 arm talent. It's not on the computer. It's on my phone.
So arm talent, not best quarterbacks, arm talent.
Arm talent, right? And I think that across the league, 1-2 is pretty, held down, pretty straightforward across the league. Most people would agree. But here he has 1 with Russell Wilson, 2 Tom Brady, 3 Drew Brees, 4 Kyler Murray, and 5 Jared Goff. So, I mean, out of that 5, I would say maybe 1 or 2 compete for my top 5 list, and I would say most others' top 5 list. But yeah, I mean, that's just awful. I mean,
Horrible.
what are you trying to do here? You really want people to watch your show and take you seriously as a sports talk host, but I mean, like, this list is terrible. Mahomes is by far the best arm talent in the NFL. It's not even close.
And he might be dude, ever. Like, he's up there.
Yeah. I mean, he runs across the field, and he's all the way on the right sideline, and he will launch it 80 yards to the other sideline and not look and somehow find Tyreek Hill. How is that not number 1 for you? Brady, he's 3 now? I mean, it's just not there anymore. And same with Brees. I love the dude, and he's super accurate, but he's old, and it's just not there anymore. He can't get the ball downfield. Goff has a launcher, but I wouldn't consider it super talented because he's not very accurate. But, I mean, Kyler and Russ, I like them, but I just don't know about this.
Can we say that Kyler is pound for pound the best arm talent?
I mean, I would say he's definitely up there.
Yeah,
I would say
give him top 5.
He's definitely top 5. I don't know if he's number 1. I mean, we're really seeing something special in Mahomes.
Yeah. I mean, to not have him in the top 5 is just asinine. That's just wrong.
And Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers not in the top 5. And look, no disrespect to Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, or Drew Brees. All Hall of Famers. Tom Brady's obviously the GOAT. But Tom Brady at no point in his career, I think, has really been a top 3, arguably, or a top 5 arm talent. That might be a hot take. Patriots Nation might get mad at me, but really his skill is just dissecting the defense. Tom Brady has never had a bazooka. Yeah, I'd never at any point in his career would I put him number 2 in top 5 arm talent.
Well, and it's like we could say that with Peyton too. Peyton is an amazing quarterback. He's up to the GOAT conversation too if you won a few more Super Bowls. But he was never, in my mind, a top 5 arm talent.
Absolutely.
He was just so knowledgeable and knew the game, and he had the weapons around him to make it work.
And that's how Brady is too, right? They both use their head. They're more known for their quick plays, their adjustments, and just consistently like just getting the ball down the field, just getting in front of the chains, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't get it, bro. Like, how stupid and how thirsty do you have to be for clicks? Especially right now when there's like nothing on, so you decide, oh, I'm gonna do this fucking list, so I'm gonna get a whole bunch of attention. It makes me so upset.
Yeah, I just don't get it. And I mean, even beyond the list, like he does a lot that I just don't like. Like his individual calling out of players all the time,
Yes.
all the
Yeah.
shenanigans with Baker
Hmm.
Mayfield. Like, do you see any other
Yes, bro.
sports commentators really calling out players like that and doing one-on-one battles with them while you're on the TV? No,
Hmm.
and dude, you've never even played sports. Like, that's what makes it hard for me. I can listen to Shannon Sharp call out a player. He played for, 15 years, but
He's got a
Colin
jacket that you
Cowherd,
can't buy.
exactly.
Hmm.
But this dude's never been on a field in his life, and calls out players one on one for stuff that they do. And I'm not
Off
saying
the
I
field.
stand by what Baker
Off
was
the
doing
field.
in
It's not
college
even on the
or
field.
off the field, but I mean, Colin Cowherd definitely shouldn't be calling him out like the way he is.
I love what Baker did, by the way. Stood up for
Yes.
himself on the show. I don't even like Baker that much, but just the way he reacted to that situation, don't let people lie on your name like that.
Nope.
Especially,
He was
I
like,
just,
he has a police video because of the one time he was drunk in public and he tried to run.
yeah.
The
Jesus.
dude was like 20 years old. Bro, like, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's terrible. So can we talk about what our list would be?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. You start, Ethan.
I'm going one Mahomes, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, two, I'm gonna throw in Aaron Rodgers. I think those across the league, most people would say that's their 1-2. Those guys just do something special with throwing the ball. I'd
Yeah.
say the rest of the five are a little bit more, they can be argued. Um, but after thinking about it, I would put Breeze in there because of his accuracy. I'd still say it's up with the best of the league.
Yeah.
But I'm not really gonna put numbers on 3 through 5 because
That's
they're
fair.
all kind of in the same boat. I don't really see one as being substantially better than the other. Um, just based off of arm talent and not really looking at their football IQ and the way they're playing, I would put Jared Goff up there, and
Wow. Turning into a young
potentially,
Colin Cowherd.
I would throw in Russell Wilson, Josh Allen. You got some guys up there competing. There's definitely some guys competing for those 3 through 5 spots, but 1-2, no questions asked. Mahomes, Rodgers. I don't even know why they're not even on the list. It's ridiculous.
So I agree with you on 1 and 2. I think I won't speak for you, Jordan, but I would think that you would agree with that as well. And most rational people would
Yes.
see that those two stand apart. Agree with you on the other guys you mentioned, Ethan, but I think a few guys who flow under the radar a little bit, or they usually fly under the radar. I want to throw Stafford in there. I think Stafford has an absolute piss missile for an arm, and he could really launch it. And, he clearly
No,
has had a few 5,000-yard seasons.
we're not using
Yeah.
a kiss missile.
All right, boss, whatever you say. Also, a guy that I have a ton of respect for is Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan also has a great arm, and he should be in the mix for that top 5 spot. Not as clear as the other guys, but he should be up there as well.
Yeah,
So that's all
he's
I
getting
would
up
add.
there in age.
Yeah, he's getting up there, but back in his day, he was pretty nice with it.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, it would definitely, yes, I would agree, is Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, and they're by far my two favorite quarterbacks in the league. I absolutely love Aaron Rodgers, always have. I just don't know how stupid you could be to deny that and his greatness. That dude will be tackled by three people at one time, halfway onto his back, and still throw it 50 yards. If
Yeah.
that's not arm talent, I don't know what is. And then I'm gonna put Stafford at 3. I was talking to you guys about that before. Just the way he's able. I mean, he has a cannon. I mean, we saw how it worked with Megatron. Like that was insane when he had
Some
Calvin
might even
Johnson.
call it a piss missile.
Yeah, okay, you're right. And
No,
and
I'm not calling
I've
that.
always loved Stafford and like his sidearm, bro. That shit is so
Yeah.
clean. I know a lot of quarterbacks do it now, But to me, in my mind, he was like the original one where it was like straight, like he was a pitcher. It was
Yeah.
really insane. That dude was
Yeah.
really slinging it. And then Russell Wilson's gonna have to be number 4 for me.
Good call.
He can really throw that thing down the field, and he's so good on the run, super accurate. I think he's always slept on. And it's crazy to me because I really think he wouldn't be slept on if they just ran the ball. All they had to do was run the ball. And we might be talking about Russell Wilson a lot differently. He would have had 2 Super Bowls. Like, that would be insane. And
True.
then Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
That boy is something special.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agree.
he's really good. One person we left out, I think we also need to throw some respect to, is Carson Wentz. A healthy Carson Wentz. Arm talent wise, he could compete up with the top 3 guys for sure.
I was so upset when he got hurt. He was doing really well towards the end of the last season.
Yeah, but hey, all respect to Josh McCown. Dude went in there and he put on a hell of a game. Tore his hamstring, just put on a hell of a game. Did what he could. They almost won it. It was quite the game to watch.
All right, I agree.
So, I think we've seen during COVID a lot more of these clickbait lists coming out from, different sports reviewers and analysts, and I've seen NFL Network do a few. NFL Network's usually pretty good about it. They got a lot of good people over there. One I saw trending last week was this CBS Sports cornerback list. I know this was pretty interesting. Everybody kind of was caught off guard by it. I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick. Let's see.
I will say when it comes to corners, I'm not too well versed. Definitely one of the positions that I probably neglect a little bit from, with my attention. But I will say that this list made me very upset anyways.
Same here.
I do just want to start out, first the story wants to start with, first one's out. Casey Hayward and Marlon Humphrey. So, Casey Hayward, I guess, he's in the competition for top 10 for sure. Marlon Humphrey, he's a Raven. I love the Ravens. But let's be real. Dude was a first-team All-Pro this year. The year before, a lot of, Baltimore fans and writers recognized him as an MVP for, the season before. Dude is an absolute beast. 3 touchdowns this year from a corner, and he's not scraping that top 10 list. So I definitely, that was what upset me the most out of the list. But then you see Kevin King here. And then the other thing I really didn't like, Kevin King has a absolute monster across from him. Yes, Jair Alexander is very young. That dude is a monster, though, and he's not even in the honorable mention. That's terrible for me. Marshawn Lattimore, all the way down to 10. What do you guys think about that?
Seems low.
Isn't he the one that gave it the Stephon Diggs touchdown, though?
It was the safety more than him, and I think that was his rookie year too.
I wouldn't judge him too harshly.
I was just hating for no reason. I know he's very good.
we see Chris Harris Jr. here down at 9. I don't know if he should be in the top 10. He used to be really good, but he's getting old and he's kind of falling off. New season. Xavier Howard is a fantastic corner.
I know for the fact this was too low.
I would definitely put him in the top 5, and I know a lot of people would. Tre'Davious White at 7 is just absolutely ridiculous to me. I think this is by far the second best cornerback in the NFL. I really don't even think it's close. The other thing about this list, too, is it's supposed to be corners and safeties. So keep that in mind as we don't see any safeties on the list.
Is Jamal Adams on this list?
We got Byron Jones at 6.
And I know people didn't like Byron at 6 either. They wanted him a little higher.
I guess. 6 is okay, but
I thought that was a good rank.
Patrick Peterson at 5. He's really fallen off the last couple of years. I know 2018 he had a really bad season in 2018. I just don't think he's even a top 10 quarterback. Jalen Ramsey at 4. I would put him in the lower end of the top 10 for sure.
That's way too high.
he was the best corner in the NFL for a bit, but
He had a bad year last year.
I didn't see him perform that well, so I would put him like at a
no disrespect,
7, 8, 9.
4.
He
Joe
was on a new
Hayden.
team though. Gotta give him.
Yeah, no,
he's still
he's a
good.
baller. Don't get me wrong, but 4
Yeah.
for this year is too high.
Yeah, definitely. Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden had a really good year. I'll
I
recognize
still think
that.
they're tripping.
3's too high still.
Yeah, I just don't know about 3, especially with having Tre'Davious White and Marlon Humphrey not on the list. I don't know about that. And then Marcus Peters at 2. Peters had a really good year. Do I think he's the second best cornerback in the NFL? As a Ravens fan, I can say definitely not. I do think he's in the top 10. He might be pushing top 5. I do think the Ravens have the best corners and safeties in the league, but I don't think he's the second best corner in the NFL. I would actually put Marlon Humphrey above Marcus Peters in my book, just from what I've seen. Stephon Gilmore, I don't think there's much argument.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, he's going to be up there at number 1, but I definitely think Tre'Davious White should be number 2. And then, beyond that, this list is just not good. And the other thing, like I said, I wanted to point out, there isn't a single safety on this list. We have no safeties on this list, and there are some really good safeties in the league.
My boy Devontae Parker got to go up against White and Gilmore twice a year.
Yep.
And he'd be putting up numbers. I just had to put that in. I got to put that respect because I seen motherfuckers talking shit on my boy, Michael Thomas.
This man has been on the Devontae Parker train since draft night. I'm going to give him that. It's been a rough ride, but he's been there hyping him up from day one. So
he's had injuries.
For that. It's like investing in a stock,
bro. It might be starting
to
pan out. We'll see. Yeah, but I definitely think these clickbait stories are starting to become an issue because, it's just stuff like that.
Stop sharing your screen.
I think I did. Did I not? Oh, all right. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
No, but I definitely think these clickbait stories are becoming an issue because it's just becoming more and more prevalent, across different sports. I think especially with, Bleacher Report, The Athletic, and ESPN, I think they're really kind of starting to take it over. I think, we're going to see CBS and Fox get a little bit more desperate and start putting out these stories that are just, trying to draw attention, even if it's bad attention and it's trending on Twitter because people are like, what the fuck is this? This is the worst list I've ever seen. At least it's some attention that they're
just
getting.
Comically bad. With that list, I would like to just raise this. Richard Sherman is not in the top 10 in the first one out or in the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
First team All-Pro, second team All-Pro, repeatedly.
He got
had
cooked,
one of the
bro.
best. He gets cooked every now and then.
I was just messing with you.
Full disclosure,
I really love
I'm a 49ers fan. So, I am being a homer a little bit, but for him to not be in the top 10 honorable mentions or just mentioned at all, along with what Ethan said about no safeties on the list when they specifically mentioned it's safeties and corners, it's just comically bad.
That man has caused you a lot of pain, too.
Yeah, you're telling me, buddy.
So, to not have Jamal Adams on there, or, that's ridiculous, because he's broken records. He's done some things that nobody else has done in the league.
He's one of the best players in the league, regardless of position.
Exactly.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't mention Minka.
Yeah, Minka, after that great season. I won't say Earl Thomas is up there anymore, but he could have been mentioned.
That boy got stiff-armed in the back, bro.
He did. It was ugly. And then I think, Justin Simmons out of Denver had an all-pro season last year, was his coming out year, but he's definitely up and coming. I think that's a top 5 safety in the league that we're going to see come and ball out in these next years. I talk up a lot of Broncos players, but the last couple of years, it's been working out for me. Cortland Sutton and Phillip Lindsay, they've panned out pretty good.
I think Phillip Lindsay's going to come down a little bit, but
definitely.
You get Melvin Gordon, it's inevitable. You're going to, take some less carries and take a step back a little bit.
Melvin Gordon really took a L on that contract holdout, didn't he?
He did, but I think it's going to work out for him now because he's going to have a lot more chance to win, I think, with the team that he's with now compared to the team that he was with before. And I know he said something a couple weeks ago about not playing with fans. And, he's like, I did a couple years with the Chargers. So I think another thing for him that's going to help him in the coming years is playing with some fans.
Yeah, it's always nice to have some fans in the stadium.
Well, not this year.
Not this year, but, maybe next year. We'll see how it's going. I mean, it's not going good right now, but maybe next year we'll see fans in. But let's just hope, we could stay on that track to where we're going to recover within the next year.
Speaking of recovery, starting on July 31st, the NBA will be back.
Yes, indeed.
And we have a very contested race for the playoffs. Only in one conference because the other one is shit. So we're not going to talk about the East, okay?
Sorry, Wizards fans.
Yeah, sorry,
don't
guys.
make it. I
Magic
mess with
fans.
Beal heavy.
Have fun in the yacht club.
Actually, Phil, I do want to ask you one question about the East.
Let's hear it.
You think it's an advantage for the Magic that they're in Orlando?
Yes and no. Yes. Yes, being that they don't have to travel as much. They're familiar with the city, I suppose. They're closer to their families. That's another huge thing of this is that when they go to the bubble, you don't get to see your family until the conference finals.
Yeah.
So them being in Orlando, that's not going to give them any advantages, but they're just much closer proximity to their family, which I'm sure has some sentimental value. No, in the fact that the Magic are the Magic, and they're going to be going home after the first round. Sorry, Magic fans. I love what you're doing over there, but I wouldn't say it's anything. If we're talking like if the NBA bubble was happening in Los Angeles, then I'd say, yeah, that's huge for the Lakers and the Clippers, but it's happening in Orlando with the Magic. So, no, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
I think people are sleeping on my boy Markelle, bro.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I love Markel's comeback. That's an awesome thing for him. And, he's really got to flourish a little bit. And, like J. Cole said, I pray for Markelle because they fucked up his shot. So I hope he gets it back. I hope he reclaims some of what he lost. And, clearly the dude coming out of Washington was a stud. Like people forget now it's easy to look back and say, how could you not pick Tatum? How could you not pick him? But at the time it was a no brainer. Coming out of Washington, this dude Markelle looked like the complete package, looked like a sure thing. And really an injury like that, you can't control that. And it's much more damaging than you would think because it messes with your whole shot motion.
Yeah.
So, props to Markelle.
He's definitely one of the most athletic players in the league. And that one of the reasons why he was number one overall pick.
Yep.
So that injury kind of set him back with that. But I think he's finally getting his feet underneath him. And I really like the way he's been playing.
Great move by the Magic, too. Great trade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was a low risk. I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we'll just jump in. That was our East. So all you Eastern people can just fuck off now. So let's talk about the West. Who do you believe? All right. We already know what Ethan thinks. Phil, who do you think is going to get that 8th seed?
I'd like to start off by saying the disrespect that the Sacramento Kings have been getting in these online discussions, in these polls, is ridiculous. Yes, we're all Kings fans here, and we're all from Sacramento, and I get it. Unless you're on League Pass, you're not seeing that many Kings games. But before the season was shut down due to quarantine, we were on an absolute tear.
Yes,
we were looking like one of the best teams on the back half of that Western Conference. We were coming in hot. With that being said, though, I think the 8th seed's going to the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans have top to bottom the best roster out of all the teams left. I think they have the best player in Zion Williamson, who should also be Rookie of the Year, by the way, Ethan. No offense to John Morant. I love John Morant. John Morant's great. Zion's just better. I'm sorry.
Dominant.
With that being said, it's probably going to go to Ja, but overall...
I mean, here's the thing. I say let's see the restart. If Zion completely outperforms Ja in the restart, yes, he's Rookie of the Year, no question.
I would agree.
Yeah. I think if it's close, though, and they kind of compete with each other, I think it very well could come down to who gets the 8th seed, or it could just come down to who had the better starts at the reset. Because right now, I think it's really hard to see who was really better because Zion had such a few games to play.
Right.
And we saw those great games with Ja, and then we saw some, bad games with Ja too. So
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies were coming down to earth a little bit as the season was progressing.
they had a tough
But
schedule too.
yeah,
Really
and
tough.
don't they have a hard schedule again for this restart, correct? Let me
Yes.
look at their schedule. Let me see.
I think for me, my hope is that the Grizzlies make it out. My real hope is that the Kings make it out. I just don't
Of
think that's
course.
super
Yeah.
realistic. I mean, I'm not very well versed on basketball, and I don't really know what's going on with the whole play-in tourney if they're within so many games or whatever. I don't really fully understand that, but I do think they could compete. And if it comes into a play-in tourney, I definitely think they have a chance. I think they're 3.5 games out right now, so they're within that 4-game mark. It's just how they're going to perform with this restart. But I definitely think they have the pieces to compete. But I think it's really between New Orleans and Memphis who's going to make it through. And I think it depends on Ja and Zion.
Game time.
I think Memphis has Jaren Jackson too, right? They got some good players there in Memphis.
Memphis has a nice team. And for the NBA restart, Ethan, so the way it works is the 9 seed will play the 8 seed to get into the playoffs if they're within 4 games at the end of the 8 games they're going to play.
So my question is, what if the 9 seed is 2 games out and the 10 seed is 3.5? Then does the 10 seed?
It's whoever the 9 seed is.
Or
it's just the 9 seed. Yeah.
Can't be no 10th boy.
No 10th. I mean, it is going to be pretty difficult for the Kings to make it in. I don't think it's going to be realistic. Realistically, knowing that, it's probably going to come down to a play-in game between Memphis and New Orleans, and it's just going to be that one game. If it's just that one game, it's just going to be who gets better.
Let me read off the Grizzlies schedule.
Let's hear it.
First game is a L because they're playing Dame Dollar, Portland Trailblazers.
They're not in the playoffs. Yeah, stop. They're still not healthy either. They're still not healthy either.
I will never trust a team that plays Hassan Whiteside as the starting center. So that's a L for the Trailblazers.
Well, and don't they have people not coming back? The Blazers have had somebody who's not coming back.
Trevor Ariza.
Okay, yeah. And that's a decent piece for them.
I wouldn't say that's a significant loss.
I mean, that's a 6, 7, 8 player.
He plays like 20 minutes a game. I mean, it's something.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to think, Jordan, they're very thin because of injuries. They have a lot of people missing right now. So they need all the wing minutes they can get. They lost Harkless. They lost Aminu. Obviously, Nurkic is out with the broken leg. They need everything they can get. And they haven't been playing well.
Who else got hurt? Collins?
Yeah, Zach Collins too.
Zach Collins, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hence why Whiteside is playing 35 minutes a game.
I'm just saying, I think in an 8-game stretch, Dame's going to come out firing. So I think they're definitely going to be a tough team to play. And then I would say the next game is the Spurs.
W.
I can see them beating the Spurs. I think the Spurs have been kind of getting a little overrated, and I understand when you have Popovich as your coach, that's going to happen. You're always going to have to be a little wary of him, but
at the end of the day, the team.
Yeah, well, Aldridge is out as well. I think he's out. Hold on, let me check. I'm pretty sure he got knee surgery, and he's sitting out the rest of the year.
And then the next game is the Pelicans. That'll be such a good game. I want to watch that.
Yep. LaMarcus Aldridge is out for the season with a shoulder injury, so sorry,
that's going to help the Kings.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might take the Spurs 0-8 in this 8-game stretch, honestly.
Yeah.
No, that Popovich will get a win. He's got to get one.
It depends on their schedule. If they play Phoenix, they could probably get a W.
Yeah.
And after the Pelicans, they play the Jazz. That's going to be hard, bro.
That's a tough team.
That's a tough game. But remember, Gobert and
they
Mitchell
got beefing
right now.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if they're going to be able to salvage that relationship, but that's a
I don't know. I feel like Donovan Mitchell, he's a big enough leader and a big enough man to kind of just let that pass through for right now, and then let that go into the off season.
I could see that too. Yeah.
And then after that is OKC, and I think OKC is going to be one of those teams that's going to be hard to beat in this 8-game stretch.
Yes,
Chris Paul's
definitely.
just going to be too good and too intelligent. He's going to. I think in a
What a
time like
season.
in a season like this, then the restart, right? Just like this, it's going to be important for those to have veteran players. So like I could even see the Thunder being a sleeper in themselves, just
Yeah.
to maybe get to the second round or maybe conference finals, bro.
I can't
I
believe
want to
the
see
Thunder
Chris
are the
Paul
5
ball.
seed. The Thunder, what a season from Chris Paul and from that
They're great.
organization.
I mess with
Well,
them.
and Shy Glizzy had a good season too. I mean, he came out, him and Chris Paul
Yeah.
balled together. They carried that team. I mean, it was impressive to see that.
Yeah, definitely. SGA is one of my favorite young players for sure.
So like as you can see, the Grizzlies got a hard schedule, and after that they got to play Toronto, then they got to play
L.
Boston, and then they
L.
got to play Milwaukee.
L.
Oof,
Jeez, that's
oof.
tough.
They got the worst pull out of the
Yeah, they did.
But when I
East.
was doing
What's
a
the
little reading on this, they were saying that the thing with Milwaukee is that they're so far ahead in the East that they might not even play their stars
Yeah, they're probably
in
gonna
that
Potentially.
last game.
Yeah, potentially. I could see that.
So that'll be interesting to see. But
well,
I think the Grizzlies really have a shot of losing it because that's a really hard schedule.
no,
Well, I mean,
there's a chance, but I just think with the playing game, I think they're right now if they're, what are they, 2 games ahead?
so I'm looking at the standings right now. The Grizzlies are 8, obviously. The
Mhm.
Trailblazers, the Pelicans, and the Kings are all tied at 3.5 games back.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it's going to be really hard in an 8-game
Wow.
stretch. I mean, they would literally have to go 0-8, and the Pelicans would have to go 8-0 for them not to be competing for a playing game.
Basically,
Unless they really
yeah.
got outperformed by the Kings or the Blazers, which I haven't seen the Kings schedule.
Theirs is
Resumed
pretty
it back.
decent.
If they have,
It's doable. Yeah, I've seen
if
it.
they have good matchups on the East, I think they can compete. But who knows? They're a very youthful team too, so who knows how they're going to come out.
And just to be fair, the Spurs and the Suns are only a half game and a game back from the rest of those 3 teams. But just based on their talent, I don't think they're going to be a factor.
They're so much further back in talent. Like I
Yeah,
don't want to count out the Suns though because Ricky Rubio had like the first 20 games of the season this year. He was
he was
just
balling.
absolute monster.
Hmm.
And if he could come out and do that, I do think they could compete a little bit. But the likeliness of Ricky Rubio coming out and putting up, 24 and 10 a game is, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Agreed.
So the Kings, their first game is against the Spurs. Their second is against the Magic. Their third is against Dallas. Fourth is the Pelicans. And then they play the Nets, then the Rockets, the Pelicans again, and then the Lakers. And you got to think too that the same thing with the Bucks I was just talking about might apply with the Lakers.
Lakers will probably sit for sure. LeBron and AD will probably sit that last game for sure.
And
they got
the seed locked up.
Kings probably got the best pull out of the East, getting the Magic and the Nets. I mean that's the 2 worst teams in the East.
Yeah, definitely.
Is Kyrie playing?
He hasn't announced, but do we really expect Kyrie to come back?
No, he's out for the season. He already announced it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he announced.
He had some work done on some injury he had.
So
already.
It's just, it's going to be Dinwiddie and DeAndre Jordan against the world. And is DeAndre Jordan still hurt? I know he was hurt before we went on break too.
He was banged up, but I don't think he's in the position to be carrying any team right now either. So
I could see the Kings going.
cooked.
I could see that I could see it as a high chance. Okay, maybe not high chance, but a good chance they can go 5-3.
Yeah, no, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to, unless Buddy Hield comes back completely different after coronavirus. Which get well soon, buddy. We love you.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, to everybody out there with the coronavirus in the league, we hope you guys are doing good.
Absolutely.
Beyond the league, just regular people like us. I know it's tough right now, especially with everything kind of opening up and then cases are going up. I know I've been worried myself, thinking, just having to put your life on pause for a month or, not being able to work for a month. I can't imagine being in those shoes. So to those people that are having to go through it,
Yeah, stay healthy.
Yep. Wear a mask.
So the next team I want to talk about is the Blazers. They got Grizzlies, Celtics, Rockets, Nuggets, Clippers, Sixers,
Oof,
Mavericks, Nets. I
that's
think
tough.
that's a really tough stretch. And after
Yeah.
really looking at their schedules, it's kind of making me lean more towards the Kings, like even a little bit over the Grizzlies. I don't know. I just got to see how the Grizzlies come out because they're going to be
Yeah.
with I think the same thing with the Pelicans, right? Like they're just both really young teams that can be hit and miss. And I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about the Kings, but it's definitely going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to come down to. I really think it's going to come down to whether or not the Kings maintain that same momentum they had right before we left off. Because I'm just not a big Luke Walton fan, and I don't like the style of play. But something was working right before quarantine. I mean, we rattled off, I think, something like 10-5 in our last 15. So if they come out the gates firing, I could see the Kings making a run. But other than that, I'm just going to default to talent, and I think the Pelicans just have the most by far out of that group.
And I know a lot of people believe that the NBA kind of set up the schedule for the Pelicans to make it in for Zion. And
You might have thrown a little mustard on it, grease the
the
wheels.
their first game is the Jazz, and then they play the Clippers, then they play the Grizzlies, then Kings, then Wizards, Spurs, Kings, Magic. So that
Oh,
last
wow.
that
Yeah,
last half is
yeah. A little butterball.
Their their fate's really gonna depend on the Kings though. Kings
Yeah,
come out hot, you have Marvin, everybody healthy. Harry Giles was balling out before we left
I
for
don't I
quarantine.
wouldn't say I don't know, bro.
I
Marvin's got
mean,
to come out for me to even say
not
something positive about him.
I don't like that Marvin was the first guy you said.
he was just the first one that came to mind. But you got De'Aaron coming out after some rest and Buddy. They were doing good when we left too, for
Yeah,
sure.
really well, really well. No
Man, I
question.
was in that stadium when everything shut out, bro.
Was,
They
yeah.
shut down everything. I was about ready to see Zion. The Kings players were warming up. The Pelicans, they refused to come out because they learned about the ref.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, man. Everything that's going on is so crazy.
It
Yeah.
is. No question.
All
But
right, so we got the eighth seed. And after looking at it, the analysis of the schedules, I got to go Pelicans. I think that's who it's going to be.
agreed.
Yeah, Ethan?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a stick with the Grizzlies just out of my own personal preference. I mean, it's not really like there's nothing analytical behind it. But I'm gonna stick with the Grizzlies just out of my own personal preference. They have a tough schedule though for sure. But I definitely think it's gonna come down to a playing game. So whether that's
I can see
Grizzlies
that.
and Pelicans or Pelicans and Kings or Grizzlies and Kings or anybody in there, I definitely think it's gonna come down. And is that Phil? Do you know, is that a single game or is that gonna be like a 5-game, 3-game series?
So the 8 seed will advance if they win the one game. If the 9 seed wins, they have to beat the other team again. So it's single
Okay.
elimination for the 8 seed. It's double elimination for the 9 seed.
Okay.
Right. I might have got those mixed around, but you know what I mean.
Wait,
Nine seed.
Yeah,
so you're
that's
saying
pretty
that they could
interesting.
win the first game, the ninth
And
seed
then
can win the first game, and then they lose, and then it's over?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. The 9 seed has to beat the 8 seed twice.
That's
Now, what are they gonna do if they're tied record-wise? Then are they just gonna do a one and done? If
Who?
like
The 8
let's
seed
say,
and the
yeah, or is it
it'll
not?
go by tiebreaker. It'll go
Is
by
it
their regular season. You know how they do it, where it's like conference record. Whoever has the better
okay?
tiebreaker will get the 8 seed in that
Yeah.
case.
See, and that's unfortunate because if like the Kings and the Pelicans come out and let's say they match each other and it comes down to a playing game between them and they have the same record, whoever gets that 8 seed, and I don't even know off the top of my head who it'd be, but whoever gets that 8 seed, that's a huge advantage,
It
even
is,
if you have
but
the same record.
I got to think like with a good team in the Grizzlies and a 3.5 game lead in 8 games, I think it'd be very.
It's hard for them to get
Yeah,
knocked out of it.
I think
And
it's unlikely for them to lose that.
the only thing I could see is if another team passed them up for the 9 seed and they'd still be within 4 games, but they just got passed up for the 9 seed. I could see that being a possibility, especially with who they have to play in the East. I mean, that's a tough pull right there.
Yeah, it is, no question.
All right. Speaking of hotly contested playoffs, we are going to see the MLB come in with 60 games, correct?
60
Ethan?
games.
Yep.
60 games. And that is going to create some meaningful games for a lot of teams that don't usually get to make it to that position. So that'll be really interesting. But one thing I did want to talk about regarding the MLB is their decline in popularity and how much this whole situation with the players and the owners not being able to get a deal for this COVID season. You think this is going to hurt the future of the MLB?
I think we're seeing some monumental moments in the MLB right now. I think this very well, could be the end of the MLB with the CBA coming up, and we've seen with football and a little bit with basketball now, exploring two leagues beyond the big leagues have kind of, been a little bit successful, not hugely successful, but the MLB has been in a decline, I think, for about 10 years. I think people are just kind of getting fed up with everything going on. And I think with the growth of social media, we're finally starting to see the behind the scenes stuff. What's really happening with minor league players. I know that's been a really big issue for me the last couple years and something I've really gotten to see firsthand. One of my neighbors was a minor league player for the Mets. He's currently on the Mets. J.D. Davis. He was actually a minor leaguer for the Astros for a while. I think he got traded once he was into the league, but I know just from talking to him, like after you get that sign-in bonus, it's, you're getting 20 to 30,000 a year. And, the majors, they play 162 games, and it's not quite that when you're in the minors, but you're still spending, 3/4 of your year on the road, hotel to hotel, playing baseball, and it's not an easy job. And I definitely, I don't agree with the guys getting $300 million contracts. I think, that's a lot of money, but we got to think about those guys in the minors that are getting 25,000 a year, how this is going to affect them. What is that guy supposed to do if he got drafted out of high school and, he doesn't have a degree because he's been playing baseball this whole time, and now, they're not going to pay him because it's only a 60-game season.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of hate against the players with this whole, everything going on, and I think, beyond the players and beyond what's happening with the minor leagues, the things with the Astros and the Yankees coming out, I mean that's a huge issue.
Yeah,
and,
huge shit.
Commissioner Manfred, he's just not fucking doing anything. He's just sitting back there, and I still don't think he's even formally addressed what happened with the Yankees.
Nope.
And
I haven't really seen anything about it.
And that's pulling away from the popularity of baseball. It's it's taken away from the game. Players don't want to play. There's owners taking the sides of players now. That really doesn't happen usually in these situations, especially with the CBA. So I just think we're getting towards the end, or a big change, whether it's a new commissioner or some sort of large change that they have to make to fix the game.
Yeah, there needs to be significant changes. I think some sort of cap needs to be put in place, man, because like you were saying, maybe if players weren't getting $300 million contracts, the minor league players would be getting a little more compensation for their play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too that also takes away from, I mean, you kind of seen it with NBA and the max contracts. It really does hurt your team when you spend that much money on one player, So that's one thing that I think that's affected the game. And I would say too that one thing that has, in my opinion, affected my opinion of the league and how interested I am in watching their games is usually it's because of that lack of cap space. It's usually the same teams always competing for the World Series. And that's what makes the NFL so great, right? It could be any given year, a random team can come out the cut and just win. And NBA, we will go on stretches where it's the same teams over and over again, but the playoffs are usually so exciting. It kind of eliminates that dislike for having the same competition every year. So yeah, I think MLB is definitely on the decline. It's definitely lost my interest as a fan. It's been too slow, and it's just also disappointing how, as an A's fan, that with the way that they do their Moneyball shit, it's almost impossible for them to ever get to the World Series because they just don't have the ability to get there. and the playing field is never really equal. So that's what's kind of lost it for me, and I hope that they kind of change that in the future to make it more exciting.
I do think that's one of the beauties of the 60 game season that we're going to see. It's going to be a change because, I think baseball more than other sports is really an any given day kind of sport. You can
Yes.
have, the best guy, in the league up on the mound, and
That's
he
why I
can
hate
give
the
up.
one game wild card. I hate the one game
Yeah,
wild card
but
because of that shit.
I love it too though. It's so entertaining. Like you have to sit there and watch it. And the Diamondbacks, I'm a huge Diamondbacks fan. Diamondbacks were in it a couple years ago with the Rockies, and it was. I mean, I've never watched a game like it, any sport. And I got to watch a Mile High Miracle as a Ravens fan, but nothing compares to that wild card game because it's one and done. You're in and out, and it's 5-3 in the bottom of the eighth, and you're sitting on the edge of your seat, like, what's going to happen. But I do think, that's one of the beauties we're going to see with the 60 game season is some different teams getting to compete. I get why it sucks for the players, and I really do. I feel for the players. But it is going to be interesting to see because, we're going to get maybe the Dodgers start out on like a bad streak. I think it was 2 years ago. They started out like 20-35 or something along the lines of that, and then ended up going on to win like 80 of the next 100 something games, and going 105 and 60, like they do every year. But in that initial 60 game stretch, you have teams like the Padres who might come in and compete. You got, we saw the Nationals win a World Series last year after going 24-36 in the first 60 games. There's definitely potential for that, but there's also potential for a team like the A's going, 42-18 and securing the 1 seed and actually getting a given chance in the playoffs, with the 60 game season.
Yeah, no, I see that as it's definitely, I think this is exactly what they needed to do to kind of gain back some ground, because of that factor, right? And I will say too, though, the MLB is not going to get out of the shadow of the NBA and the NFL if they continue to not allow players to show any personality. That, especially with the age that we're in with social media, that's a big factor. And it's the players nowadays, leagues barely even have to advertise. Like, the players are doing it themselves, you know what I mean? So that needs to change. There needs to be bat flips. Sometimes South Korean baseball is more exciting to watch than MLB, and that can't happen.
It really is, and it's disappointing for me as someone who played baseball because it's a very emotional sport. You go through the up and down emotions every game, from striking out to hitting a home run your next to bat, or anything. As a pitcher, getting a home run hit off you to striking out the next batter. There's a lot of emotion involved in the game, and it's very against that. So I think I know with the Pirates they had Clint Hurdle as their manager. I'm just gonna call out a specific guy. Very old school, very you get hyped up on the mound or you flip a bat. He's gonna tell his pitcher to hit you the next time up. We need to get those guys out of the league.
Yeah.
You're putting players at danger. You're making the game not fun. If you don't want somebody to bat flip, don't give up a home run. That's it. It's just like that in every other sport. You don't want someone to flex on you after you get dunked on. Don't get dunked on. Get the hell out of the way.
And it's the thing is, too, if you get dunked on, that's a part of the game. If you give up a home run, that's a part of the game.
Everybody gives up home runs.
Can you imagine how much different basketball would be if you weren't allowed to celebrate when you dunked on somebody?
It'd be the most boring game. Yeah. I really do. Basketball is one of my favorite sports to watch because it's like you can have that one play that entirely changes the emotion of the game.
Yeah, 100%.
And
yeah.
I think baseball is the same way because you can have a home run. I mean, you can be 5-3 and some dude hits a 3-run home run. It's entirely a different game. Except that guy can't show his emotion like they can in basketball.
I mean, dude.
And now it's like this point is just not fun.
I'm telling you, I've never really taken that much of a liking to baseball. But out of all the sports I've ever watched, one of the most emotional and fun things to watch was the Batista bat flip.
Yeah.
That was one of the most.
That was a wild card game.
Yeah,
that was a wild card game.
Yeah, it's crazy, and then just the fact that that's discouraged, like, it makes me think of this is something I heard Gary Vee say. But if you really think about it, like dudes like LeBron James, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, those stars in the other sports, they can't go anywhere without being recognized. You can't just go get coffee if you're LeBron James and expect no one to see you. And then he said, if Mike Trout were to walk into a Target, maybe 30% of the people there would recognize him. To
Yeah,
everybody else, it would be just like, oh, that's just a buff dude.
maybe 30.
You know what I
Maybe
mean?
30.
I'm an avid baseball fan, and I'd say I could walk into, Target, and if Mike Trout was standing there, I might be like, oh, that guy's pretty fucking built. Like, he's got to be doing something. But I don't think I'd be like, oh, shit, that's Mike Trout.
Exactly. Yeah. And that lack of recognition and that lack of star power, and I really think it's something the MLB has actively discouraged or at least prevented, and that's
No, they
really,
have.
really hurt them the past
Well,
few
they
decades.
they don't promote. And I think, and I hate to say it, but I think it's ingrained in the system. Baseball is very racist, and I think over the last couple of years we've seen an emergence of international players, and they're still trying to focus on the white players. And I hate to say that, but I really do see it happening. We have a lot of focus on Bryce Harper and Mike Trout, and don't get me wrong, Mike Trout's probably the GOAT. Dude's never been to the playoffs though.
It's
Let's
crazy.
talk about someone else.
That's
Bryce
crazy.
Harper,
Overrated as fuck.
Bryce Harper's a beast and can hit home runs, but yeah, he's fucking overrated. Dude goes out, bats 260, and people act like he's a top player in the MLB. And then you have another dude on another team batting 310 that year with the same stats, the same amount of home runs, and his name's not even mentioned. Because what? Because he's from the Dominican? Because he's not from, because he's not white American?
Hey,
that's really what I've seen in
shout out Colin Cowherd
baseball.
hating on Dominican baseball players.
Yeah, why
Remember
does he have a career after that? Why does he just get to come back and say more stupid shit?
I'm sure he'll get canceled again.
Yeah, where's Kansas for the people when we need?
Yeah, that shit was really bad.
Oh my goodness.
But let's talk about something that is very good. And that is the NHL draft. And this is going to be another Ethan-led conversation. I'm not too well versed, and I know Phil, you're not too well versed in the NHL. Yep. Ethan's been kind of getting me into it. It is definitely something that I definitely want to get more into. Super exciting. I can see NHL within the next 5 to 10 years actually overtaking the MLB, especially with the way that they've been doing. Like we're going to talk about their draft system that they're doing this year, and I think it's very creative. And that's something that, we were just talking about the MLB. They're lacking that creativity. Let's talk about the draft. What's going on with that, Ethan?
So I will say this year, I'm probably, out of all the sports coming back, really I'm most excited for hockey out of all of them. Over the last couple of years, I've been, I was really into it when I was a kid. And then the Coyotes kind of sucked for a long while. And I just stopped watching as much. But over the last couple of years, I've really started watching it again. This year, I watched almost every game. So I'm really excited for that to be coming back. But, they resumed to play. I would say out of all the leagues, I think, they had it figured out the best. They knew what they were going to do from the jump. They got it out right away. They don't have the exact dates out yet. I think training camp starts next week. And then they're supposed to resume play late July, early August, but they haven't announced the date. The draft was Thursday night, I think. I know it was this last week.
The lottery, right?
Yeah, so the lottery. So the interesting thing about it that they did this year is they took the teams. I think the bottom 8 teams of the league are not in the playoffs this year. So they took those teams and they let them compete for the lottery. It ended up, it was interesting because the number 1 pick is not up this year. So the way they did it with their Zoom to play is the teams that weren't in it got to compete for all the picks. I think it was 2 to 10. And then that number 1 pick is going to be reserved for a team who's in the qualifying rounds or the play-in tourney for the normal playoffs, which is 8 teams from each conference. It's going to be teams 4 through 12 or 5 through 12 in the standings. I love it because, the Coyotes struggled a lot of the season, but we got a lot of star power and, we went on really good stretches. And we're coming out of the 11th seed with the chance to compete. And, those qualifying rounds it's going to be one opponent, 5 games. If you walk out with the series, you're moving on to the playoffs, and that's it. And then from there, their playoff structure is just normal compared to how it would be any other year. So that's really cool for me. And then the teams that get knocked out of those qualifying rounds all get put in for a lottery for the 1 pick. So I think there was a very creative way to go about coming back. And, just because you're one of those teams that are competing in that qualifying round doesn't mean you necessarily be a top team in the league. Those are definitely teams that might be in the lottery if we had a normal season. So giving them the chance at that 1 pick, I think is definitely cool. I think, and it's equal. Every team gets a 13.5% chance or something like that at pulling the lottery.
Okay. And you've told me too that NHL, the draft picks aren't as valuable as, say, like the NBA or NFL.
Yeah, I think with the NHL more than other leagues, it's a lot more team centric, and it's a lot more about building the depth, because you can have, the superstar power first line, and those guys, you can have 5 superstars on that first line, but those guys can play max 25 minutes a game, and you have to play 60 minutes a game. So having that second, third, and fourth line and being able to switch those guys in, it gets that much more important, especially when you get down to late season, you're into playoffs, So I think with the 1 seed being the way it is, I don't think it's as big of a deal. I also think more in NHL, it's more position focused at the top. So we saw this year, I guess in the NFL, it was a little bit more position focused because we didn't see the Bengals take the best player in the draft. But more often than not, you see, in other leagues, no matter position, the number 1 player is going to be the number 1 player. Where I think in hockey, it's more of position focused. Do we need a goalie? Okay, then let's get a goalie number 1. Do we need, a winger? Let's get him number 1. So I definitely think that's going to be interesting. The other thing coming out with hockey, with the draft, San Jose, I don't know if it was last year, traded their pick. They were really awful this year. It's going to suck for them because their pick is gone. They got the number 3 pick. It is with the Ottawa Senators, who also landed the number 5 pick.
Damn.
So that's a big deal for them. 2 top 10 picks. That's 2 star potential players, 2 first line players, for sure. So that's a big deal for them. That's going to be 2 top 20 prospects for sure. So I think the hockey, check it out. If it comes back, give it a chance. I think they're going to be on NBC and stuff. I definitely
give it a chance.
Check out a game. A lot of people just don't want to give it a chance, but I think it's a growing sport. I think they're seeing a lot more diversity. We got a lot more black players in the league. I think that's a big thing because it was for a long time predominantly white. But we're getting, more diversity in there, and I think that's really good. So yeah, check it out. It's entertaining. It's fast paced. It's fun sport to watch.
And you get to watch fights as well.
Yeah. I was gonna say, big shout out to them for actually allowing and encouraging fights.
Can you imagine if NFL players would fight?
Ooh. Andre Johnson, Cortland Finnegan, just every game.
Be so crazy. Imagine like Gronk fighting a defensive end. Just 2'6", 275 dudes.
After the Miami Miracle, Gronk just going after him and beating him, bro.
Oh my goodness. All right. We're going to get into the hot take section of our show. And just a reminder, you are watching The Couch. All right. So the Couch hot take section, we're going to start with 2 up-and-coming quarterbacks. I believe one is incredibly slept on. The other one, I think not a lot of people know about. We're going to be talking about Haskins versus Locke. So we got our quarterback of the Redskins and quarterback of the Denver Broncos. I'm personally going to pick. I'll give you guys my pick, and then you guys can go ahead and talk about it first. Since Phil kind of didn't have too much speaking time with the last 2 topics, I'm going to let him go first. I'm going to pick Haskins over Locke. This last season, I will say, though, I really watched more Haskins than I did watch Locke. And also, I believe, too, that Locke also has an advantage because he does have a better team. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Redskins, man, y'all need to get it together for real. But I like Haskins. He's got good arm strength, and he's been putting out some good videos over quarantine about him throwing some yams, bro. So That's gonna be my pick. But I do like Locke as well. I will say from what I've seen, he's got good potential. But Phil, go ahead.
I mean, I'm gonna go with Drew Lock, man. I think Drew Lock, what he showed last year was very steady, very reliable production. And really, what I think it comes down to is the situations both quarterbacks are in. I think Drew Lock has a better coach. I think he clearly has better weapons, a better team. And I would like to say too with Haskins, I get it. You know, the Redskins were a hot mess last year. Got a coach fired, going back and forth between him and Case Keenum. But
He's got Ron
do
Rivera
y'all?
now, baby.
He does. But all I remember, man, is
Riverboat.
the Redskins were going into victory formation, and Dwayne Haskins was in the stands taking a selfie with fans when he should have been in victory formation for the team. So that right there, not a good vote of confidence for my guy Dwayne Haskins. So I'm gonna go with Drew Lock.
He's just promoting the brand, bro. You got to get that bread.
Yeah,
Hey.
hey, I respect it.
Already won the game. Already won the
Yeah,
game. Go
exactly. He already
celebrate.
put in work. That was his break time.
Okay, fair.
All right, go ahead, Ethan. You weigh in.
I just want to start off by saying I really like both of these guys. You know, Haskins is definitely an up and coming quarterback for me. I think, you know, he very well has a chance to lead that awful team out of the NFC East next year just because that division is so bad. But I have been keeping a tab on him while we've been off. You know, I've seen him posting some good videos. A big thing I did notice, I know NFL Network was covering it. He lost like somewhere between like 15 and 30 pounds. You know, that's a big move because that was one of the things I was seeing with him last year is he did seem like he was a little bit out of shape at times and just, you know, once we get down to the end of the games, he'd start struggling. But, you know, I think the coaching change is going to be a big move for him. Weapon-wise, though, they still don't have all that much. They had that rookie last year. I can't remember his name. But rookie receiver last year, I know he was really good. Won me some fantasy games. But, you know, running back wise and, you know, the rest of the receivers and the tight ends.
Just team wise.
Let's just say team wise. It's just not there. So,
can they change the name too while they're at it?
No, that's what I was going to say next. Is I don't believe that they're actually going to win anything until they change the name. I think that really weighs them down.
That's fair. That's fair.
But at the end of the day, I'm definitely going with my boy Drew Lock. I definitely think he's going to outperform him. I agree 100% what you guys are saying with the better team around him. You know, substantially better team around him. He's got a killer receiving core now with, you know, Judy and Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton last year, you know, became one of his own. He's going to be someone who's competing for all pros these next few years. And then you throw Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay in there too. You know, that's a really nice backfield. And I know they got, with their second or third round pick, they got another receiver out of Penn State who will cover the slot. He's good too. I just think overall he's in a better position to succeed. Vic Fangio is a hell of a coach too.
All right, say 5 years from now.
5 years from now,
What's your prediction?
But I think what it's going to come down to is, you know, 5 years is such a short amount of time. We're going to look back on this and say, you know, the first 2 years Haskins still, you know, because there's no way the Redskins are going to be able to recover their team this year and next year. I just don't see it. They don't have enough draft capital. You're not the Dolphins. You don't have 3 first-round picks. You know, you just can't stack up and do it in a year or two. It's going to be, you know, that third, fourth year with Haskins when they start actually improving the team and being able to compete. But that being said, like I said, the NFC East is super trash. He could definitely compete with that division. And if he pulled some playoffs out, I could give it to Haskins after 5 years. But I just think Drew Lock's in such a great position in Denver with coaches and players around him. You know, the one bad thing is he has to see Mahomes twice a year. And, you know, that was his only loss last year was Mahomes. And that sucks. But, you know, with 7 teams making the playoffs now, I think they're going to be in playoffs, you know, at least 3 of those 5 years of these next 5 years.
I'm really interested to see how the AFC West will play out, especially in the coming years, because, I mean, Herbert, right, he has all the tools to be good. You know, we haven't seen him on the field yet, so we'll see. But, and then, you know, of course, Mahomes, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be top 2 no matter what. I mean, and someone would have to really come in and they'd have to be coming in. That's what I'm saying. Like, someone would really have to come in and throw like 70 touchdowns in a year to really take that one spot from him, right? And And then I think at some point, especially with their draft capital, the Raiders have to start putting it together. They're going to start clicking at some point, especially given the time that Gruden's going to have. He's going to probably be there for the next 5 years.
Spider Y2 banana.
It'll be interesting, definitely, but I do think the Broncos are trending upwards. But I think at the end of the day, Haskins with Ron Rivera, I'm a big Ron Rivera guy. I think they're gonna turn it around. But like I said, nothing's gonna happen until they change that name.
Facts.
That kind of goes into my next hot take, if you want. But I was kind of going to talk about the Broncos and the AFC West with this 7 teams from each conference thing we got going on this year. But like one of my big hot takes for the years is I got 3 teams out of the AFC West and 3 teams out of the NFC West in the playoffs. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that, especially the NFC West.
Yeah, AFC West. Yes. I got Chiefs, Broncos, and I think the Raiders are going to compete for that 7th spot. I don't know, though. The AFC North is tough this year, too. But I definitely think they're going to be there. And then NFC West, I think it's easy. We're going to get 3 playoff teams, and it could be any of the 4.
Yeah.
I could see any of the 4 making or missing the playoffs. I think the Cardinals are going to come out and be really hot this year, though. They're my other, outside of the Broncos, that's my other sleeper team this year is the Cardinals.
I like the Cardinals a lot.
I really think, to be honest, that I'm not a fan, let's just get that off the bat, of the 7-team playoffs in the NFL. I think they had it perfectly before. I think 6 teams per conference was perfect. I don't think you had to change that. And I think with that, with 7 teams in each conference making the playoffs, there's going to be some stinkers. There's going to be some playoff teams where we're some like,
9-7.
Yeah, some 8-8, maybe even a 7-9.
Some 9-8 when we go to 17 games.
Yep, exactly. There's going to be some teams
8-9.
There's going to be some teams where we're looking at it and we're thinking, why are you here? What are you doing? And I really think it opens up the possibilities for the Cardinals, for example, or for the Raiders to make the playoffs when they really shouldn't.
It'll help though with there's the years where a team wins the division and they're 9-7, but then there's 3 teams that are 11-5.
It'll help with that, yeah.
So it'll help those teams, and I think it will improve the playoffs from that sense. And then also it should eliminate, like if we had this set up, say 10 years ago, the Patriots might not have as many Super Bowls as they have.
Yeah.
Because that bye has really helped them, because it didn't matter if they had the 1 or the 2. Having that advantage was always big.
The bye is that's too much of an advantage almost. That's honestly pretty crazy that 2 teams used to have a whole week off in the playoffs. I mean, I get it, but I think that's a good idea that the 1 seed is high enough esteemed that they should deserve a bye week if someone has to.
So did we convince you?
Well, I still don't like it, because even with 6 teams, well, football, like Ethan was saying before about the wild card game and like a any given Sunday type of thing, football is the king of that. Like you could win any day against any team in football depending on the circumstances. And I just think there used to be some stinker teams in the playoffs that had no business being there.
7-9 Seahawks over the Saints, bro.
Yeah, the beast mode run, I mean, even last year, the Eagles.
We can have more of that.
The Eagles with Josh McCown almost won a game last year. They were like right there, and they really just didn't belong there. I'm sorry. Like, big respect, but still.
That's my other thing with it is I think that the talent in the NFL these last like 3-4 years has really come up so much that we have room for 7 teams in the playoffs. Last year, I would have taken the 7th seed for both conferences happily into the playoffs. You might say the Eagles didn't deserve to be there, but their game obviously showed they did.
Well, at full health, they clearly belong there. I'm not saying that, but just with the current state of the team, I mean, they had to throw out, no offense, but they had to throw out some random people out there to play receiver for him. They were debilitated by injuries last year.
And it wasn't Carson's fault that he got hurt. That was
no, absolutely not.
Bro.
Absolutely not.
So I don't want to hear about that injury-prone crap, because I understand that, but that was not his fault.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, speaking of the Eagles, I think that actually leads very well into my hot take. I saw another bad list that's been going around, and this one was Pro Football Focus did their top teams of the decade from 2010 to 2020.
Oh, God.
And Honestly, the list itself wasn't that bad. I think they had
Okay.
they had the 2013 Legion of Boom Seahawks at number one. But my hot take for this is that the
Okay.
2017 Philadelphia Eagles, the Nick Foles championship Eagles team, is the best team of the decade. And I think that because they, from top to bottom, were the most talented team I had seen of that
They were
decade.
stacked.
And they won against the greatest of all time quarterback, Tom Brady, at arguably his best playoff performance with their
Yes.
backup quarterback because of how good they were. And to me, that accomplishment and that run in the playoffs, not to mention they completely smacked the Vikings in the NFC Championship game, just completely tore them apart. It wasn't even a competition.
It wasn't fun to watch, no.
No. And for them to go then and beat Tom Brady when he threw for 500 plus yards is just incredible to me. And I think they deserve that spot as the best team of the decade. So what do you guys think about that hot take?
I like that argument.
I
Only
mean,
only team I would probably throw at you is when I believe it's in the same decade. I hope I actually I know for sure it is. When Peyton threw for 55.
That,
yeah, I
that's a
was
good
gonna
one.
say that's 2015, 2016 Broncos when they beat the Panthers in the Super Bowl. Panthers were 15-1 that year.
Same argument,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah, same
that
argument.
was a
I would
really
say
good
the only
team.
thing that holds
They were
back that team
stacked.
is Peyton wasn't no, the year that they went 55, it was actually that Legion of Boom Seahawks. Remember they lost the Super Bowl that year.
Right. Well, I mean, that for me
So never mind,
disqualifies
I
them.
can't argue that.
That was
I
but
agree with Ethan though.
that was
I
the
think
year
that's like
before they
special.
won the Super Bowl. When
Yes.
they lost the Super Bowl, but then when they won the Super Bowl, I think, all around that was probably the best team of the decade because, they were stacked at every single position,
I can see that.
every
Yeah.
single position.
Hmm.
Because
I
you
know, I
had
would agree. They were very stacked.
That was
Wes
when Demarius
Welker,
Thomas was still balling out. Emmanuel
Julius
Sanders.
Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders.
Yep.
I would
Yeah,
say,
I
yeah,
can see
now that
that.
I'm thinking about it, maybe the one thing that would hold them back is Peyton that year it was definitely not. I mean, he definitely helped win the Super Bowl, obviously, but he definitely wasn't the reason. He was kind of slowing down. That defense
I'd
was
argue that
incredible.
they won in spite of him, honestly. I,
Yeah,
I I think he was breaking down pretty quickly there, but I agree with you, Ethan. I think they should be in that conversation. I mean, in today's game, it's dominated by quarterbacks and how good your quarterback is. So I think the Eagles and the Broncos winning either in spite of or regardless of who they had at quarterback, I think that puts them in contention.
what about
Sure.
wasn't when Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl, wasn't that 2010?
I believe so. I think either
Around there.
2010 or
Because that
2011.
was a really good team too. Like
I think,
Yeah.
their defense was really good.
yeah, but their offense still wasn't that great outside of Rodgers. That was like Rodgers coming out year.
Jordy
Greg
Nelson,
Jennings.
Greg Jennings,
Greg
Randall
Jennings was
Cobb.
on the back end of his career. Randall Cobb wasn't there yet. Greg Jennings was on
I
the
don't know,
back
bro.
end.
He
Jordy
broke
Nelson
his
was hot
leg.
that year. But then who was their running back? See? Eddie Lacy, bro. Eddie Lacy was the running back, I'm pretty sure.
No, I'm pretty sure
That's
that was pre-Lacy.
Pre-Lacy.
even pre-Lacy, who was
We're
their
talking
running
about
back?
it was Starks, Randy Starks.
Who?
You don't remember him, number 44?
I
No,
remember
I
him.
think it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Ryan Grant. Wasn't it Ryan Grant?
Could have been.
No,
25?
it was Starks, bro. I don't know if his name was Randy, but it was definitely Starks.
Just throw names out there.
I'm pretty sure it was Ryan Grant, but
No,
either
I'm
way,
telling you.
I mean, I just don't think their team was all that. Like, if we can't remember who the running back was, their team wasn't all that stacked.
Yeah, that's true.
Let me see, bro.
Then they had what? B.J. Raji, A.J. Hawk had won Defensive Player of the Year that year, but that had no secondary really, because that was after Charles Woodson had left.
I don't know. I would argue. I would agree that Eagles are definitely up there, and I'm really not mad at Legion of Boom because
No, me neither.
they did
They were
obliterate
great.
that really great Broncos team that I was talking about. Like they
Yeah,
absolutely killed them.
no
Was
question.
was that a Cardinals and Steelers Super Bowl? Was that 2009?
Yeah, that was
Those were
that was the
both
previous
really,
decade.
really, really good teams.
So it was
Both of those
2010
teams.
Packers. Says they had Brandon Jackson at running back. Wait, hold on. but I want to say he got hurt.
Plaxico Burress back there playing running back.
Am I tripping off Starks? Was he really not till then? Bro, the Packers still had Donald Driver on the team?
Yeah, that was his last year,
Throwback.
I think.
That's crazy. But, bro, they had B.J. Raji.
Yeah.
Matthews was really balling out.
He was,
Defensive
yeah.
Player of the year.
And then they had my boy A.J. Hawk.
Man.
Bro, I mess with that. All right. I want to say another hot take. And I've been telling y'all this for a while. I think Zion's the next big star in the league. I know we got Giannis, but I think what I really like about Zion and his potential star power is he already seems to be very good at handling the media. And I think that's really one big factor in becoming a star. Like LeBron's really good at that, right? And Zion's already good at pushing his own brand. And of course, his play just speaks for itself. This dude in his first game, didn't he score like 30 points?
Zion is just, you look at clips of him in high school, and I was always thinking to myself, at what point is his athleticism going to just blend in with everybody else? Because looking at his high school clips, like there's no way that this disparity in his athleticism versus his opponent's athleticism is going to continue. But at every single level, college, now the NBA, he just looks different. He looks different than everybody else he's playing. And the only people I can remember seeing in my lifetime who that reminds me of is honestly just LeBron. I can't think of anyone else whose athleticism just jumped off the screen in such like a visceral way to me. And obviously, like you said, he's a bright young man. He's obviously very smart. He seems to have a very good head on his shoulders, and he looks like he's equipped to deal with the fame. So I think he's going to go far as long as he keeps his weight in check. I think he does need to lose a few, and I've been critical with that about him. I think he needs to stay in shape, but other than that, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, I think.
James Starks.
I remember.
Yeah, it is James Starks. Shout out to James Starks.
He was on that team. He won. I'm pretty sure that Jackson ended up getting hurt, and James Starks came in. And I remember it was a big deal because I believe he was undrafted or he was a very late draft pick. Yeah, 6th round draft pick. So that's what it was.
Let's get James Starks on the pod.
That's
Shout us out.
Kind of good, bro.
Get him out here.
Number 44, bro.
Yeah,
it's a good number.
I remember him back in the Madden days. I think he probably won me some fantasy football games when I was like 13.
But I could see in the next couple of years, though, Giannis really taking over. That's probably who I see. If it's not Zion, it's definitely going to be him. But like I said, my hot take, I don't even know if it's really a hot take, but Zion's really going to be the next star.
Agreed.
I think Zion and Giannis are definitely 1-2, but I think Joel Embiid can compete for it too. He's personable enough.
No.
I think people like him.
I'm talking
I'm not with it.
It's more than just you're the best player in the league. It's you're the face of the league.
No, that's what I'm saying though. People will watch his Twitch streams and shit, and people fuck with Embiid. So I could see it. I'm not saying for sure, but I could see it potentially. Him being in that conversation in 5 years. He'll be on the faces of the league.
I think he only has about a good 5 years left. That's just the way it is for a big man, especially with someone his size. He's definitely big in particular compared to the rest of the big men. And then, of course, his athleticism and the way he plays, it's just not good for someone as tall as he is with them knees. He's already had injury problems as well.
Listen, I think the fact that you have Hall of Famers, you have Shaq and Charles Barkley coming out and telling you on national TV, you need to be better, you need to be more locked in. That just matters. You can't put that. Something up here has to click for him to really hit that next level. But like Ethan said, he has the talent to get there. He could do it.
I mean, Embiid.
I think about all the greats. Who has ever had that problem where they don't have that desire, and then they actually went and fixed it. Yeah. LeBron didn't come on the scene and it was he doesn't want to play basketball. He doesn't want to take it serious. No other all-time great has had that problem. So that's
I guess with us watching The Last Dance recently, we obviously weren't around to see it, but I guess people could have had that perception with Rodman too, at
Yeah.
some point. And
Yeah.
I mean, actually, throughout his career, it kind of seemed like he didn't really care. I think he himself, through that documentary, said he
Well,
didn't
people
really
say
care.
that about
But
Shaq.
Yeah, but not to that extent. Like Shaq, I feel like with him it was always just a matter of I'm so good and I'm so much better than everybody else that it's hard for
Yeah.
me to care. You know, because Shaq in his prime, that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Shaq in his prime was the most dominant player of all time.
Yeah, no, I
More so,
agree.
more than
It's
Wilt,
insane.
more than
No,
MJ,
no
more
one
than
was stopping
LeBron.
him.
No
No one
one.
in NBA history is going to stop
No one.
prime Shaq.
Zero. And that's why, dude, when that conversation was going around about Draymond Green, like would Draymond Green and the 73-9 Warriors stop Shaq? I was just done at that point. Like, you need to stop it. You watch some tape, man. Come
I
on.
need Draymond to stop acting like he's on the level of Charles Barkley because Charles Barkley gets a lot of hate too, but
He does, yeah.
he was so good. People do not understand how good this dude was.
He's a
He
monster.
there's a reason why people compare Zion to him, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He was so good, and I just love Charles when he talks too, man. He's so funny.
You gotta love Chuck. You gotta love Chuck.
Shaq. I was gonna say Chuck and Shaq. Yeah, Shaq. The both of them together, perfect combo.
Yeah. Inside the NBA is the best sports talk show out there.
Yes,
No question.
I agree.
I'm
Phil,
gonna
you
use
got a
that
hot
check.
take?
Oh man. I mean, I got a lot of hot takes, man.
We could make this one the last one. We're at an hour and a half.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm gonna put my hot take out there, man. This is the hottest take. It's debated up and down the block, every single sports talk show ever. Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time because of his legacy and his accomplishments. LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time. When it comes to skills, the complete package, what he brings to the game. Thoughts?
Is that really a hot take?
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily consider that a hot take. I agree with that. I think, Jordan's legacy with the shoes and everything has left such a mark on basketball. He's
Facts.
always going to be viewed as the greatest of all time. But do I really think, he's the best basketball player that's ever been on the court? No. I've seen some crazy things out of LeBron over my entire, growing up. I've been finding like tweets and Facebook posts from when they were playing the Mavericks and him just he fell apart that year, but after that it was just straight heat from then on, and it's been crazy to see him at as he's gotten older, and he's 36 now, and still doing his thing, still being the top 5 player in the league. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, this was something I used to be stubborn on. I would just not hear it about Michael Jordan, but definitely The Last Dance opened my eyes more than I had so in the past about him and his accomplishments and just what he brought to the game. So yeah, that's what I've changed my mind on recently a bit. But what do you think, Jordan?
It's one of those things too with Jordan that I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to have those accomplishments, especially with the talent that we have nowadays.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard. Just getting 6 alone, right? But then also doing it to where you lose no finals.
And win every single finals MVP.
Every single finals MVP. And then on top
10 scoring titles.
10 scoring titles. And then you have, he was a defensive player of the year. He played every second of the game. He was going 100%. So I think just that in itself is going to be hard with the accomplishments and then him playing both sides of the ball. I could see maybe let's say if Kawhi, the thing is with Kawhi, if he were to get 2 rings, say with LA, you put him in that conversation. If you put it right, if LeBron wins another 1 or 2, right, you put him in that conversation, but still at the end of the day, it's going to be hard to compare because, and then with LeBron, right, I mean, you have all the times you went in a row, but like we've discussed, he's had some poor finals performances. So even just off of that, people are never going to fully agree.
Right.
It's just one of those things where it's going to be damn near impossible.
Yeah.
And definitely. The same thing can be said with, like Brady, right? We'll probably never see a run like we did with the Patriots. And even then, with how good their teams are, they never won every single Super Bowl.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I just think we'll never see it again. And the thing is, too, is people always say the 90s basketball was shit, and it's not true, bro.
I agree, but it was not the golden age of basketball. Not even close. Okay, that's not fair. It was close, but it was not the best of the best either. The talent we have today versus then is
And
not
that's just going to be
comparable.
progression,
Yeah,
right?
of
Not
course.
in every sport.
Yeah,
I
yeah, of
mean, I
course.
think most of all, like we're seeing that in baseball right now. I think a lot of the records and stuff are starting to get broken. I mean, I don't think our steroids records are really ever going to get broken because they're kind of the thought of
Jesus.
Barry Bonds hitting 73 or how many ever it was, 71 home runs in a year is
Did you watch the
ridiculous to me.
McGuire Sosa 30 for 30?
Yeah, I watched it. It was really good.
Yeah.
It's just it's hard for me. I like those guys, and I think they were good players and everything, but it's hard for me to take them legit with everything that they got away with during the time. And I watched the Sammy Sosa documentary itself, like a different Sammy Sosa documentary separately, like the week before. So it really showed me a lot about the steroids and how it went down, and the MLB. And it was just a mess. It's hard to respect those players and take their stats legit. Like I do think they should be Hall of Famers, but at the same time, it's like I don't think they should be holding the records right now because I can't compare
Hey, they
someone
weren't testing
today.
for it, bro. They weren't testing.
Hey, but I can't compare someone today to someone who back then was taking steroids and hit 70 home runs.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
not realistic. We see the top guys in the MLB over the last 10 years. You're seeing like the top guy is maybe hitting 50.
Yeah.
What's the
We
record
haven't
for a
even
single season?
Barry Bonds was 71 or 73. We haven't even seen someone come close to that number.
Well,
You
McGuire got
know,
70, right? And
well,
then
McGuire and Sosa,
yeah.
they were up there, but like that was the steroid era too. Since the end of the steroid era, since everything happened with Bonds, we haven't even seen someone get close to it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that we'll probably never see again. And I think that's a good note to end it on. It was a good talk with you guys. We did almost an hour and 40.
Yeah.
This is the Couch Sports Talk podcast. I'm your boy Goozy Boy. We got Young E, Big Dick Phil. Let's go. And then we got Greg Jennings with us today with a broken leg. Lamar from preseason. It makes me really upset that that's Ethan's favorite play because it happened in the preseason and Lamar
and
had
it
literally
got called back. It got
yes,
called back.
didn't even count. And I swear this dude had like 20 other incredibly big highlight plays.
Listen, audience, I want you to know when this play happened in the preseason, I have never in my life seen Ethan more excited.
Hey, it was after the playoff loss. There was a lot of uncertainty about Lamar, and I really see him come out and do that. I was like, man, we got something special here. Little did I know.
Yeah, you were surprised. I'll give you that. Yeah, Lamar really
Definitely.
came out and showed out.
Yeah, shout out.
And I was really upset too how I will say like in the very first game when they played the Dolphins and everybody was like, "Oh, the Ravens are going to be hella hot." And I was kind of mad about that because I knew the Dolphins were complete shit.
Yeah, it was
I
the
think
Dolphins.
they would have got beat that bad by any team that day.
But I mean, the Ravens had a really good year. They
No, they
came
did.
out and Patriots were 8-0 and they whooped that ass. That's always good for me. That makes me feel happy deep down inside.
So are you still worried about the Patriots with Cam?
No, I think right now, as a Ravens fan, realistically, worry number one is the Chiefs, and I think we did a lot this offseason to beat the Chiefs, which kind of that leads me into worry number two because we're not really focused on the other teams. Like we kind of got surprised by the Titans last year because I think we were so focused on trying to beat the Chiefs, and what players do we need to beat the Chiefs. So that worries me a little bit. And then, injuries always worry me, especially when I see Lamar out here, hurdling a jet ski. It looked cool, but, I don't want to see my franchise quarterback go down in an off-season injury.
Let's go.
But, that's really it. I'm not too worried about, the Patriots. I would say most of my worry comes from the Chiefs, and then, maybe a little bit of the Bills, because we kind of had a tough game with them last year when we played. When you get down to those in-season games, it really comes down to who can play better in the bad weather. And the AFC East is really good at playing in the bad weather.
Phil, are you scared at all of the Cardinals with their acquisition of Hopkins? And they've put some other pieces in there, and I think they're going to be a really good team. You're not worried at all?
Sleep.
With the AC on?
I'm sleep with the AC on. I'm under 2 comforters, 3 blankets. I'm cozy. Listen, you could give, I don't care, DeAndre Hopkins, Megatron. You could pull out Jerry Rice from the 90s. Any team that's coached by Cliff Kingsbury, zero hope.
So you're not worried about the fact that the Niners showed a little less confidence
no. I'm worried about the Niners
by going after Brady.
I'm worried about the Niners. Don't get me wrong. I really think we're going to decline this year, but I'm not scared at all about the Cardinals. No, I'm asleep.
So it's the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks, and then maybe a Rams resurgence. I could see that happening.
I could see a Rams
coming back. No running back. They got rid of Brandon Cooks.
You don't need a running back, bro.
Yeah, you don't need a running back.
You do need a running back. You need somebody.
Well, yeah, you need somebody.
But you don't need a superstar back there.
You don't need prime Todd Gurley. You just need some dude who's okay. You need a committee.
That's why I'm cool with the Dolphins getting Britta and Jordan Howard.
I mean,
you're gonna like Breida for sure. Breida's nice.
Yeah, the Dolphins did really well with that. That was good.
That ass. All right, I think we'll just conclude it there. Good talking to you guys, and especially talking to Phil here. He just finished up his master's.
Yes,
Big
sir.
Congratulations to him.
Thank you. Thank you.
And me and Ethan still putting in that work in school, so we'll get there. Appreciate you guys jumping on. Let's make this a weekly thing. Let's continue to make content. And like I said, man, hopefully soon we can be sitting on a couch and just enjoying each other's company.
Soon come. Pause.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Have a good one, man.